everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and I'm so excited because today I get to share another awesome conversation with you that I had with one of my very best friends, Rachel Cruze. Rachel Cruze is the New York Times bestselling author of the books Smart Money, Smart Kids and Love Your Life, Not Theirs. She's also the host of the Rachel Cruze Show, and she is just a whole lot of fun. Check out this conversation with Rachel. Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and I'm so excited because I get to hang out with my good friend, one of my good friends in real life.
Yes.
Rachel Cruze.
I'm here.
Yo.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
We have desks beside each other. We're real friends in real life, but now we are kind of on this official set pretending to be, legit and professional.
We're being professional.
We're so fancy. But I'm so excited to have you here because we are going to be talking about contentment. And we've been talking about this in this whole show, and I know it's something for you that is really core to everything you teach about money.
Yes.
It's core to everything about living a life that really gives you the foundation you need to have great money habits. So let's just start with talking about contentment in general. Like, why do you think that's important? Why is it so foundational for you?
Sure. Well, when it comes to your money, I've learned that people that are content, they win financially, because people who are content can save money. People who are content, they will sacrifice their lifestyle to get out of debt. People who are content live their lives with an open hand and they give more. Yeah. It's just contentment allows you to be at peace. Your heart is really at peace with where you are, because stuff is not going to make you happy. Yeah. Stuff can be fun. You can buy some fun stuff. It's great. You can enjoy it. But it's never going to fulfill you. And I think we live in a culture and a world where we run like a rat in a wheel, thinking that the next thing's gonna make me happy. Oh, okay. And when you just finally stop and, surrender to that race, and you're like, you know what? If I can just be content, which means I, again, am at peace with where I am right now, where God has me this season of life, man, I can enjoy it so much more.
Yeah. It's so interesting too, because I feel like that we know this intellectually. Like, we talk about this, like contentment. Yeah, that's important. It's certainly a godly quality. God calls us to be content, but then it's hard.
Yes.
Like, it's really hard. And even if I'm content, right now, then after this shoot, I go out to my car and, I'm just sitting there before I take off and I'm scrolling Instagram, and someone has a perfect new kitchen and their kids are perfect and their outfit's perfect and they're going on a European vacation. I'm like, oh, my life is the worst.
I'm so
it's like,
boring.
just like that. Just like that.
I know.
Your whole attitude and perspective changes from content to discontent. So let's talk about, what are some of the barriers to contentment? What are some of these things that are temptations we slip into, or just kind of the enemies of contentment that we're facing in a real practical way every single day?
Yeah, well, I think you have to understand first and foremost what contentment is. So contentment, it is not apathy.
Right.
It is not laziness.
It's not giving up.
It's not complacency.
Right.
I mean, you can still be striving. There still can be movement in your life and being content.
Yeah.
But I think it's when you start to envy or be jealous of others, that cycle starts to really play out. Yeah. And social media, we've talked about it a lot, but it's true. It is. It's one of the, it's not, I don't want to blame social media on everything, but I think it is the vehicle that takes us down this road of discontentment and comparisons. And so it's really, really difficult, and you just have to be aware. You really do. I think it's the easiest place to slip in. And I realize that you don't compare your life usually to people that are out of your league, if that makes sense. Yeah. So people that are, maybe you have a successful business and there's someone just starting out, like, you're so much more inept to be like, oh yeah, good job, you go girl. But it's someone that's on your playing field where you start to be like, oh, the comparison starts to seep in, right? And so that's what you really have to watch out for. It's almost that peer-to-peer level is where the comparison is so real. And so really just saying, you know what, I've got to quit the comparisons. I have to stop this. And I've kind of figured out this formula that allows you not only to quit the comparisons, but is really this roadmap to contentment. And it's starting with gratitude, which leads to humility, which then breeds contentment. So it's a process.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about those 3 stages, because I've heard you talk about this before. I've heard you talk about this at church, and even talk about this on stage with Dave. I want to talk about each of those 3 stages and kind of what that means. So let's start with the first one.
Yeah, so gratitude, starting there, learning to be grateful, which again, can be so hard in our world today because you see what everyone else has, what everyone else is experiencing, and what you're lacking. And so truly learning to be grateful for what you have. And I started this thing. It's actually it was a study was done, and it proved science.
Oh, I'm ready for this. Let's have
science,
it. I love
it works. I was like, I started this before I even knew there was a study out about it. But I started this thing of the gratitude list on my phone. And so I just write down 2 things I'm grateful for every morning. And because I was in this bad habit of going to email and social media, like before I even got out of bed. And so I realized, you know what, I have to start my day with being grateful. And the study came out that showed like the neurocircuits of your brain or whatever all of it is. People that start their days with gratitude not only have a more joyful day, but inevitably a more fulfilling life.
Wow.
And I was like, man, it's so true. Gratitude is huge. And so I think really starting and looking at yourself, and it could be big things you're grateful for, right? Health, success of a business, like where you are financially. I mean, it could be the big things, but it also can be the small things. Like I wrote down one morning, I'm like, I'm thankful for hot coffee.
Yeah, that's
like how terrible is cold coffee?
Hey, some people don't have it. Some people don't have it.
That's right. But I'm like, man, just to go, I do Keurig. Just to put the little cup in, and I get coffee right there. Like, oh my gosh. So
and you enjoy the coffee more because you're grateful for it, right? Like you're like, oh my gosh, you don't feel entitled to the coffee. You're like, I'm grateful for this thing.
Totally. So learning to be grateful. And again, it sounds a little Pollyanna, but I feel like people that are grateful that you talk to, they're more enjoyable people.
Absolutely. They're more likable. Yes. Okay, let's talk about gratitude as a choice, not a feeling. Because I think some people think, oh, well, if I get this new job, then I'll be grateful. If my situation changes, then I'll be grateful. If such and such happens that I want, then I'll be grateful. As if gratitude is a response or gratitude is a feeling that comes and goes. But you really talk about how gratitude is a choice that you make.
Yes, a daily choice. And sometimes it's a hard choice.
That's right.
Right? Life isn't always easy. Like there's things that happen that you're like, man, some people it's really hard things.
Yeah.
But man, when you can find those little glimpses of the hope in your life, of what you're grateful for, of where God has you, it's amazing what changes. I had a lady on. You may have had her on the Business Boutique. Mignon?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Love her. We love her.
Y'all see Mignon. Yeah. I mean, she's one of those people at the top of my mind.
That's
like
right.
I was like, oh my gosh, she is. She is so grateful for so many things.
That's right.
And again, when you're just around these people, but she had a hard life.
That's right.
And there were days that she probably did not feel grateful. I know there's days I don't feel grateful. So yeah, you're right. You can't go based on a feeling. It has to be a choice day in and day out, and it has to be consistent.
Okay, so gratitude is first. Talk us through the second stage.
So when you're able to be grateful for what you have, I almost visualize it as like you're looking down at your life. And once you're there and you're like, okay, yes, I am thankful, I'm grateful, you're able to look up then, and you're able to look out, and that's really where humility comes into play. And C.S. Lewis's quote is like my all-time favorite.
I love this.
Yes, where he said, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but it's thinking of yourself less. And it's not humiliation. Like I feel like some people feel like they're humble, like when you give them a compliment, they're like, you look so pretty today. And they're like, no, I'm
the worst. I'm the ugliest.
Oh
it's
gosh,
like, no.
Like, you did really good. Oh, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Like, but they feel like, oh, I'm just being humble because I don't want to brag or I don't want to, But I'm like, no, it's not humiliation. What it really is people thinking less of themselves. And it's so interesting. I'm like, the people that we've gotten to interact with, we've gotten to meet some really cool people in our job. And like some of like the people that have just like sold the most books, right? Or that are speaking to the largest audiences, your Christine Caines, your Max Licados, like these jewels of people, but they've been so successful. When you end a conversation with a lot of those people, it's so funny. I walk away and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like all they did was ask about me.
That's right.
Like they didn't sit there and talk about themselves. Like they literally were asking questions about me. And then I get self-conscious. I'm like, can I just talk about myself the whole time? Yeah. But I look back on so many of those people that I so admire. I'm like, these people are like killing it on so many levels. But yet, it's not all about them.
That's right.
It's about other people. And you just see it even in those conversations that you have with them off to the side somewhere. And so that's what I always think about. I'm like, man, people that are humble, they're just so willing not only to serve and to give, but they're just thinking about you. Like that you have a level of value that you're bringing to their life, and they appreciate it, and you just feel that weight. I
love this cycle, because the more humble you are, naturally, the more grateful you are, because you're just grateful. You're not entitled. It's the opposite of entitlement. That's right. And the more grateful you are, the more humble you are. It's kind of like the person that comes to mind for me is Shelley Giglio. Shelley Giglio is one of those people that instead of walking in a room and going, "Here I am, look at me," she's like, "There you are. Look at you." Everything is like, "Look at you. How are you doing? I remember I talked to her and she was like, "How can I support you?" And I was like, "Are you asking me that?" I'm like people that have all the success in the world, that have every right to say, "Look at what I've done. Look at the books I've sold. Look at the impact I've made." Whatever the thing is, are the ones going, "Look at you. Let's celebrate you and where you are." And I think that's just regardless of your level of success, regardless of your stage of business, regardless of your amount of followers on Instagram, to be the person that goes, "Look at you." That makes somebody, I love it, was it Kid President that said, says, be somebody that makes everybody feel like somebody. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to make you look at you, you know? So I love that. Okay. So you've got these different stages. You've got the gratitude, you've got the humility, and then that is what leads to contentment. Let's talk about how that kind of works.
Yeah. So the thought with that is now once you're able to look out and see other people, you now get to look beyond that and you get to look at your future. Because again, like we said earlier, contentment is not laziness, or it's not like, oh, I'm just going to be sitting here forever and this is where I'm going to be. No, there's movement. You can still have goals. So looking at the future and say, okay, what can I do better? But when you do that on your own without gratitude and humility, that starts discontentment. It's almost the opposite of like, oh, but once you, again, achieve those two steps and you're like, okay, yes, I am grateful. I'm thinking about others. So now I get to think, okay, what's in the future for me? It's a natural progression that's in a healthy way versus saying, oh, I just want that over there. Right. I'm going to try to get it without the other two.
Right. Because I think that's going to make me happy.
That's
I'm
right.
going to have arrived. The way I always talk about it is, it feels like the finish line always moves. Like if
Yes,
I could just get there,
yes.
and then it's like you never get there. There's not an amount of Instagram followers you can get. There's not an amount of money that you can make. There's not a moment where you're going to go, I've made it. I don't want anything more in life. We're always kind of looking for the next. We're always goal oriented, and you want to cultivate progress, but it's not going to replace the feeling of satisfaction of just being content where you are.
Exactly.
So I love that example. And I think it's really important, especially for our business owners, to hear this, because we live in this paradox of being so goal oriented and also needing to find contentment. And so let's talk a little bit about even someone like you, someone like me, that we're on stage, and you have to have a level of confidence to be on stage. You have to have a level of confidence to run a business. You have to have a level of confidence to go for it, go big or go home, put yourself out there for rejection in the marketplace or whatever.
Yep.
How do you balance this incredible confidence to go for it and give it all you've got? Like really put yourself out there and still stay grounded, still stay humble and content and grateful while going for big things. So it's like, it's this weird balance that we're kind of living in. And we know people that do this, and we certainly try to do it.
Sure.
But what does that look like?
Yeah, I think for me, the work you're doing, if it's self-serving, then that's where the vicious cycle begins.
Okay.
But we're on stages to help people.
Yeah.
So for me, it's almost like the work I'm doing isn't about me. Like I get to be the mouthpiece of it, but it really is. And we truly believe that here at Ramsey Solutions. We talk about all the time that we exist for the people that are not here. Like we're doing it. So I think when you're doing, whether it's a business or you're speaking, whatever it is, but it's all for you. Then that's where it starts to get really messy. Yeah. But when you can take yourself out of it and be like, it's not for me. We have a sign at our live events, and they post it everywhere.
Yes.
And it says, "Thank you, God, for choosing me. It's a pleasure to be on the stage."
That's right.
And that's it. It's like I was, given the opportunity, stepped in, worked hard, have honed my craft. But at the end of the day, it's not about me on stage. It's about that couple that I'm looking out in the audience. Do you know what I mean? Or the person that's going to pick up that book. So that's what keeps me, because I struggle with it. I actually talked, I feel like I'm name dropping. I really don't mean to. But Christine Kane, name dropping all these cool people we know. But seriously, I talked to her about this at dinner one night, because I was like, what is the balance of having a job that does not become your identity,
right?
But it has your heart. Like, how do you not, how do you keep that? And so we had just a great conversation around that. And I think that is true. I think those are two separate things. You can have the heart to do things, and your heart is for people and it's for your work, but you do have to keep your identity true and don't lose that in your business.
I think so much of it is where it comes from too, for me. Like I remember, I don't know if you remember this, a million years ago, Andy Andrews came in and coached us on speaking. Like we did this half day thing, and he came in and gave us some advice. And he said, I remember something really stuck out to me from that day, where he said, when you walk on stage, he said, you should be thinking about what you can give, not what you can get.
Yes.
And what he meant was, how can I give value, give solutions, help people change their lives, make a difference, inspire, educate, whatever, not how can I get laughs, how can I get a standing ovation, how can I get raving reviews. And the speakers that walk on the stage that are totally focused on them and what can I get and how cute do I look, and look at my slides and me and all that I've done and I want to get a standing ovation, you feel it in the audience, you feel it.
Oh yeah.
But those that walk on the stage completely focused on what they can give, those are the ones ironically that get the standing ovation, because they were so focused on what they could give. And I think it's true in business. Don't focus on what you can get, the money, the followers, the success.
Right.
Focus on what you can give to the marketplace, and you'll get all that success and more.
And something we do helpful around our place here is we have a persona, and it helps me so much. So we took a survey, basically figuring out who's my audience, who's your customer, figure out who is your typical customer, and like paint them out, like get a picture of who you think they are, like what's their age, what's their demographic, what's
Get
their
to know them.
Get to know them. And so like mine's Emily. We named her Emily.
I love it.
But we think every content everything is okay. What's Emily getting out of this? Emily, and we keep thinking about her. And so that helps the perspective where it's not like, oh, I'm building this big business just to show everyone how great I am. No. It's not about you. It's about Emily.
That's right.
Figure out who your Emily is, and when she's your target, I think that helps the perspective as well.
That's so good. And if you really do have that heart check of like, where is this coming from? You know what I mean? Is it coming from because it's going to make me look good or make me look smart?
Right.
Then that's not the right place.
Totally.
But is this going to help Emily in this example? Then that's great. It's ironic because I feel the same way back to where we were talking about kind of the enemies of contentment. I feel like it's the same for me. If I'm unhappy with the way that I look and I want to work out because I want to be healthier because I just want to be healthier, cool. If I liked my body one minute and didn't like it the next because I saw someone skinnier on Instagram, then that's coming from a different place.
Yes.
I felt good about me until I saw her. And so the why behind it matters so much.
Your motivation.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so one of the things that I love that you teach about contentment is you make it really practical. It's not just like this theory like, oh, feel content, good luck, cross your fingers, make this choice every day. You actually are teaching people actionable steps and even now have a new tool to help them do that. So talk to us about like how you put this into practice. It started on your phone, but it's kind of evolved from there. So let's talk about that.
Yes. So one thing that I've learned in my life that I love so much is journaling. So journaling has been a big part. I started this at the end of high school, and I've journaled everything, like so much, so many prayers, so many fights with friends, or whatever it is. Like it all goes in these journals, and so I literally have boxes of them now. But it's so fun to look back and see how faithful God has been. I always laugh and say like how many doors he's opened, how many doors he's closed.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank God for unanswered prayers.
That's right. Can I get an amen?
I look back at stuff, I'm like, oh, thank you, God, you did not answer that.
That's right.
So terrible.
That's right.
So it's just so fun to look back and reflect, and that's where a lot of my gratitude comes back from when I go back and reread these things. So journaling was a big part, and obviously this message of contentment, like I think it's huge not only in the money space but for people's lives. So I'm like, okay, I want to pair the two together. Yeah. So what I came up with, is the contentment journal.
Yeah.
And so walking through kind of what we just talked about, but it's going to be 30 days of gratitude, 30 days of humility, 30 days of contentment, and it's a guided journal. So you have prompts every day for 90 days. And it's so exciting. I'm like That's really awesome. Pumped about it. And, if you all create content and you do too, I'm like, I did it on a plane ride because it's much different than a book. It's much less content. There's some teaching in it, but it's way less than what a book is. And so I did it on a plane ride to and from LA. So I had 8 hours by myself on this plane, right, to and from. So I did it all. And at the end, I hit send, the file to go to our content team to clean up all the crazy grammar and stuff. But I hit it and I was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. Because I'm like, I want people to get this in their hands because it's a practical tool because you can go from living this dissatisfied, busy, spinning your wheels life to going through something like this journey and being like, oh wow, at the end of it, I have so much not only to be grateful for, but so much joy in my life. And so letting those be those daily challenges with the prompts it's something fun.
One of the things I was talking about earlier is my Christmas letter, which is a very small scale of each year, because I'm not great about journaling, but each year I'll write this letter. And the way that I describe it, as I have years and years now of these letters, is it's a chronicle of God's faithfulness. And what's so cool is now you're giving people a tool where by the end of this, it will be a chronicle of God's faithfulness.
Yes.
And what's so awesome is not only is this proof for your contentment, it's not like, oh, I can just grasp at straws, I'm thankful for health. It's like, look at all the things I'm thankful for. I have proof in writing, which we talk about that. It takes on a different power when you write it down.
Yep.
But it's also when you face a challenge next week, you can go, God was faithful before.
Yes.
He will be faithful again.
Yes.
And I love that. And so it really is something that is going to cultivate a different level in your faith life, in addition to these very practical qualities of gratitude, humility, and contentment.
Yes. Yeah. It's powerful. I heard a stat. There was a study done that said, if you have a thought, it can be gone within 30 seconds if you don't write it down.
Oh, wow.
And so there's something powerful about putting words to a paper, and you can go back because there's so many things you forget, right? Like day to day, you're like, oh, I totally forgot that this happened and how great this was or how kind this person was to me. Yeah, you forget all that. But when you write it down and you can go back, the memories that triggers, and like you said, you just see day in and day out that God has walked you down this path.
Yeah.
And he is good. And what your life is now, man, there can be hardships. I'm not saying that your life is obviously going to be perfect. There's hard times, there's trials, hard seasons. But that's when you almost need these kind of things the most, to go back. Yeah.
It's just good too to have, it really is like having a best friend guide you through this. Like, it's so funny because you're sharing screenshots of some of the pages on social media, on Insta story. And so I didn't want to share mine publicly, but I did text Rachel. I was like,
I knew what it was. I was like,
I texted her the response to hers from yesterday, and I was like, I'm thankful for this, So it's just so fun that it puts your heart in that zone. The way people talk about how do you hear from God and that type of thing, I'm like, sometimes it's just tuning into that radio station. And this is a tool that's going to tune you into that station of gratitude and what God is doing in your life. And I love that, because I think the fruit that's going to come of this is so much more than even you and I can realize when we're sitting here. As we wrap up, Rachel, I would love it if you would just speak to our listeners and our viewers and just share with them, what is something that you hope they gain from this gratitude contentment journal? Like, what is something that you hope, like, at the end of this, I hope that you get to feel this or experience this. Like, I think this is going to lead you down this path. Like, what are kind of your dreams for it?
I look at our lives day in and day out. And for me, it seems like it's like hour blocks, right? Like, it's like, you get up, you get the kids ready, you're getting breakfast, you get dressed, you go to work.
And calendars.
Yeah, you come back and it's like, oh my gosh, you're making dinner, you're giving the kids baths, one's running out of the bath naked, you're having to get up, put them back in. Like, it's just like, and you get done and you're just like, oh, like, okay, the day's over, I
did so much, and what did I do?
I know, right? Like, it's just like, man, life can be tiring. And we're in the season of little kids now, so it's like toddlers, and you're just like, it's so physical, it's so tiring.
The nighttime routine in and of itself is exhausting. Like 7 p.m. I'm like, I'm ready for bed as well.
Literally, yes. So I know for me in my story, I'm like, I can get so caught up in that, like in those kind of rhythms, that I forget to look at my life. I forget to look at others. And man, just stop and pause and having that time. And what this does too is it forces you to have some quiet time.
Yeah, I love that.
Which is so good. Like, whether you do it in the morning, night, whenever your routine is, but having that time, even if it's 15 minutes.
That's right.
Just to pause, have quiet, and reflect.
Okay, Rachel, in addition to the Contentment Journal and all the other million things that you're doing between speaking and your Rachel Cruze Show, now you also have a podcast. So you're on YouTube and Podcast World. Tell us about it.
That's right. So I love both.
Yes.
I do love the podcast. I'm really excited about it. So we're taking the audio from the Rachel Cruze Show, putting on podcasts with some more teaching and kind of commentary around it. And the fun thing about podcasts is you get to kind of just drop any whenever you want. Yeah. So the team gave me like this little recorder.
I saw this at the Smart Conference. You did this.
We did it with my maker.
Yes.
You were on mine. Yeah. So it's so fun because I'm like, okay, if I have a thought or I'm with someone cool, I just take out my little recorder and we just talk, and it can become a podcast. It's like this whole new thing. Because I've done video for so long, but it takes like a crew. It's a production. There's big editing and like all this stuff. A podcast, it's like, I don't know, it's just more of a conversation. And I
grab your little microphone out of your purse and you're ready to go.
I know. So the Rachel Cruze Show podcast, go subscribe.
Rachel, this has been so helpful, I know, for all of our listeners, regardless of their stage of business, regardless even if they have a business. Like, contentment is just a virtue that will help us in so many areas of life. But before we wrap up, I would love it if we could close with you just maybe addressing our viewer, our listener directly, and just maybe there's a woman listening right now and she just feels discontent. Her Instagram following is not impressive. Her products are not selling, and she has this dream in her heart. And she feels like God has given her this hope and this dream and this gift and so much desire for the future, but the current reality isn't great or isn't as impressive as her friends on Instagram. So just give her some words of encouragement as we wrap up about where she is today.
Yeah, I'd say going back to kind of the gratitude piece, but man, when you can learn to be grateful for the season you're in with your business, so much happens because you start to realize, okay, this is an opportunity for me to grow. And this is an opportunity possibly for me to try some things and maybe fail, but on a small scale. And so you learn so much in these seasons. You learn so much. And so as you grow, you get to figure out, okay, what's working? And as you do that, naturally, your business will grow, your following will grow, what it is, because you're figuring out what's working, but you get to start on the scale that you're at. And you get to make some mistakes. I think that's the beautiful thing, because when you are given, or you do achieve a big platform or a big business, some mistakes can be extremely costly. They can be magnified, but you have to look at this position right now and where you're at and be like, okay, I'm here for a reason, and I get to do things now that I may not get to do when it's big, and continue to grow, continue to persevere, and you have to put the blinders on. Stop looking at what everyone else is doing and learn to be, again, that content and that peace with where you are.
I love that. I love how the Bible says, do not despise these small beginnings.
That's
and
right.
We all have small beginnings.
So good.
You and I have stories for days of the Move Conference. We'll tell you another time
Thank
about
God
how we got started speaking.
We had that summer, though, because I learned so much. You learned.
We did.
And thank God it was on that scale.
That's right.
versus what we're doing now. Oh, so bad. Yeah,
so good. Rachel, you're so fun. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for spending some time with us and hanging out.
So great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you are ready to check out Rachel Cruze's brand new Contentment Journal, well, you can find out more information and even read the first 10 pages for free by clicking the link below.